Well, thank you everybody for coming to this Are You OK forum. It's really fantastic to meet you all. I'm Monica Tilking, I'm the department chair, and I'm very happy to be collaborating with SUPA on this event, and particularly on Are You OK Day, which is a really significant day, you know, in the calendar, particularly for those that are studying psychology as well. So it's a really great day to have our first co-event. So with all events that we hold, we always start with an acknowledgement of country, and you'll see that on the screen. So on behalf of those present, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we now meet. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I also pay my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people of Australia, and hope that the path towards reconciliation continues to be shared and embraced. So welcome everybody to the Swinburne Psychology Are You OK forum. So it is the first collaborative forum between the Department of Psychological Sciences and SUPA. And as they say on the Are You OK sort of website and in their messaging, it's not always easy to keep the conversation going when someone says they're not okay, but it could change a life. So there is always more to say than Are You OK? And we hope that this event will help you with your own efforts to support each other during this time and into the future. So as mentioned, I'm the department chair, and I'm supported by a wonderful team of academics. Many of them you'll already know by, you know, from your work, from your studies. I have Associate Professor Diane Sivasubramaniam, who is here. She's the Deputy Chair of the department. We have a postgraduate director, which is Dr. Rosalind Galligan, an online studies coordinator, which is Dr. Brad Elphinstone, our honours director, Dr. Ben Williams, and our undergraduate director, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, Dr. Ben Bullock, otherwise known as Diane, Ros, Brad, Ben, and Ben. So, and I'm really pleased to be collaborating with SUPA. I think this is such a fantastic organisation, and in particular with Ariba Hanif, who is the president of SUPA, with Richard Mason, media and marketing coordinator, Emma Sim, treasurer and marketing director, and Macady Hurley Edwards, who is the secretary, and really impressed by their leadership. So to kick things off, I know we're a little bit late, but you know, that's life. Life is messy, and that's why we have Are You OK Day events like this, because you know, every day can be a bit messy for some people and messier for others. So please, for this session, please be brave and contribute to a safe space for us all to work together to debrief and reflect on you know, what makes our conversations with people okay. When we ask, are you okay? This is a strengths-based discussion. We want to focus on what works well when asking, are you okay? Please utilise the chat function. Be respectful towards your colleagues and peers. I know you all are. Please share your own experiences only and what you feel comfortable sharing. And if you have the bandwidth to leave your video on, and I'm sure I can see everyone has, that's fantastic, please do, because it's always nice to see each other's faces. Please mute when you're not speaking if you are in a noisy environment. And at the end of this session, there will be some support services put up on a slide for both staff and students. Yeah, so without further ado, I will now invite Ariba to introduce SUPA.
Hi everyone. Yeah, my name is Ariba. I'm the president of SUPA, and first of all, I'd like to welcome all of you, especially our staff members. As you all know, SUPA is the psychology club at Swinburne. We rebranded this year, and we've had a successful year so far, even with all the online stuff going on. We have more than, I think, 325 members so far, and we're the biggest club with the largest number of online students as members. and I just want to include that we had our Daffodil Day charity event a couple of weeks ago, and our target was to collect $250, and we actually collected $400 for that. So we're really proud of that, and you can check out all of our other events and stuff that we've done on our socials. I would just hand over to my committee to quickly introduce themselves.
Hey guys, I'm Em. So I'm just studying a Bachelor of Psych Science, doing Neuro and Psych, and I do events, and I'm the treasurer at SUPA.
G'day, I'm Richard. I'm the media and marketing director, and I'm studying a double degree in health science, psychophysiology, and media comms, social media.
Hi everyone, I'm Ange. I study a Bachelor of Psychology Honours. I'm a first year and I'm the SUPA graphic designer.
Hello, I'm Marina, and I am working with the events team with like Emma and Steph, and I'm studying psychology and marketing.
Hi, I'm Liv. I'm the media and marketing assistant, and I'm studying a Bachelor of Media and Communication.
And we have Steph, who's the events. She's actually a master's student at Swinburne, and she was working, I think, today. And we also have our ambassadors. So we started this ambassadors program for students who are interested in to be part of the group, but have other responsibilities. We have Gemma, Ebony, who are honor students. I don't know if they want to introduce themselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ebony, and I'm studying a Bachelor of Psychological Sciences here at Swinburne with honours.
Hey, I'm Gemma. I'm doing the Bachelor of Psych with the honours, so the 4-year course, and obviously in my 4th year.
Yeah. And we also have Sarah, who was our media director last year, and now she's our ambassador.
Yes, hi. I used to be the SUPA, and I'm doing psych and forensic psych as my undergrad.
Yes. And we also have Jess, who's I think our first year.
Hi, yeah, I'm first year doing psychology and forensic science also.
And we have Mariah.
Hey. Yeah, I'm first year just doing a Bachelor of Psychological Sciences, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a diverse group of people working together at SUPA. And just starting with today's event now. As you all know, Are You Okay? Founded in 2009 with the aim of just empowering all of us to have that conversation and to look out for the signs that maybe we need to ask someone, are you okay? So this year's theme is basically there's more to say after Are You Okay? And today we'll go over some of the challenges or simple steps, especially in this online environment, that we can do to just have that conversation. So starting with the first step, are you okay? Asking that. So what are some of the signs? And we'll open up the floor for discussion. You can use the clap hand, I think, in the reaction if you want to speak, or you can use the chat function. So what are some of the signs that to look out for when someone is not okay in our friends group, in our family? What does everyone think?
I'm happy to start it off, Reba. I know that sometimes when people are a little bit irritable, and grumpy, it could be a bit of a sign that they're not okay. And sometimes we sort of think, oh, what have I done wrong? But often, I know for me, my experience, it can be more that their life's not going too well. I don't know if others have the same experience, but that's a sign for me.
Yeah, I think people sort of, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you can go.
I was just going to say, I think, yeah, when things are getting to somebody that wouldn't normally get to them, it's a sign that they're a little bit more fragile than they normally are.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I'm not okay, I usually become a lot more irritable. And I think in other people, just like noticing when I guess it depends on the personality, but when someone's usually like a loud personality and they're usually bubbly, but you notice that they're a little bit more isolative, if that's a word. Yeah, they isolate themselves a little bit and go a little bit more quiet. I tend to notice that.
especially now on the online space, we're not engaging much in conversation, or when they're not, I guess, on social media as often.
I think what Monica was saying was really interesting about people becoming more irritable, because I think one of the challenges associated with that is sometimes when someone kind of has like a little bit of a spat at you, you kind of take it a bit personally, and then it sometimes can be hard. I mean, I'm sure most people here, being psychology interest, we could probably see past that, but I guess how can we like speak to our other friends that don't have the same interest and let them know that maybe like, you know, someone's not just like being that way, like it's not about them, like there might be something else going on. Like, what do you guys think a good way to communicate that is?
I'll jump in again. So sometimes just keeping asking the questions. You know, I think the question's really important. Like, is anything else going on in their life at the moment? Do you know, has anything changed for them? You know, just sort of, I suppose, being curious as well, without being, you know, nosy or anything as well. It's like that balance, isn't it? But just being curious as to, yeah, I suppose not jumping to immediate assumptions or conclusions about a behaviour, or yeah. What do others think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about that balance, like making it aware to them that you care about them and reaching out and saying, hey, like I care about you and I've noticed like you might be acting a little bit differently. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm here, not like pushing or being overly nosy, but just showing that you do care and that you're there if they do want to reach out and talk to you.
Yeah, creating that opportunity rather than like, you know, going all detective, like what's happening here and what happened with that.
Yeah, definitely, because I think that can intimidate people as well.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben, for attending. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's good to sort of think about also what's the right or wrong place to have that conversation, especially in an online. What if you're in a meeting or you notice someone? Do you then text them? Do you ask them to do a video call with you? What's some of others' experiences that they had so far? Arena?
I think it's also important that even though you notice these things that they might not be okay and you ask, that you may not be the person that they may want to share it with, and maybe you could recommend going to someone more comfortable if they don't want to talk particularly to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Ebony, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was going to say, in my experience, I found it kind of, I think people take, you know, just a video call or a phone call to be quite intimidating and quite sort of confrontational. So especially I think with our generation, you know, I think it's better to just shoot a text or just be like, you know, is everything going okay? I've noticed some changes and I really care about you, and, you know, would be happy to talk to you if you'd like. And I think that comes across as way more less confrontational, essentially. And if they want to further call you, then they have that opportunity to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think then that leads us to, okay, Sarah, go ahead.
Sorry, I forgot where my mute button was. Yeah, I feel like everyone's kind of touched on this, but I know that at least if I'm in a not okay place, if someone comes up to me and they're like, oh, are you okay? I'll just be like, yeah, I'm fine, and I won't want to talk about it. But it's the gesture and the acknowledgement, which, you know, is the step in that right direction. So it's like, I know that someone's there for me, and it's just that kind of mental tick where it's like, okay, maybe I'm not as alone in whatever's going on. So I'm one of those people where if someone was to call me, I would not answer the call because I'd be like, don't do that. But I'd really appreciate that it's there, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that sort of leads us to the second step, listening.
I think we did have a have a chat from someone, from Kel, in the chat box.
I can't see the chat.
Yeah. So we had Cal, who was received a Snapchat from a friend who was just having a bad day, and she called him up to ask, and they were really happy about it. So I think it's it's really interesting, like knowing your friends, and I guess the best forms of communication. Because sometimes a phone call is best. Sometimes a text, sometimes like a Snapchat or something. Like I guess where people feel comfortable. I think that's where it's really important. So.
Yeah, which is perfect for what.
Yeah, so just to add one more thing to that, one thing I've been doing with friends that because we're all in isolation is I've been organising sort of virtual walks with people. So I just put in my headphones and we organise a time to go for a walk together, and we just chat, and that's been really fun actually. And finding that actually you walk further and faster when you're talking to a friend, and so it's good exercise as well. But it's sort of like a bit more of a natural way to catch up with someone as well. So different ways, isn't there, of providing support to each other. But look, the next step that UAK are advocating is to listen with an open mind. And I suppose for this part of the forum, I'd really like to hear your ideas about what that means. So, they talk about, being non-judgmental, being really open, and also active listening skills. So in psychology, we learn about what, active listening skills. So that it's actually, it's really focused listening and trying to not, well, I won't tell you what it is. Let's see what everyone thinks about what that actually means. And you see what are the traits of a bad listener. We've all had that experience of talking to someone and feeling like, has it really kind of sunk in? Have you heard what I've actually said? Why is body language important? How can you approach a situation judgment-free? How can you listen with an open mind? So that's the next part of our chat.
I think what I usually do is that when a friend or a family member or anything like that is having a hard time with the whole active listening kind of thing, it's good to repeat back what they've kind of told you, but in your understanding. So they really understand that you've really listened to them. Because if you can repeat it in a way that you've understood them, it really makes them feel that you've acknowledged what they've said. So that's really helpful. I use that a lot. Yeah.
That's great, Angelica. And that's what active listening is actually.
Yeah.
That's really good. Olivia?
One thing I've noticed when an experience where people haven't been so active in their listening is often when you go to someone, you explain your problems and they kind of overshadow you and be like, well, you think you have it worse. Listen to what I have to deal with. And that's definitely been an example that I've run into quite a few times.
Yes. That's they're waiting for an opportunity to sort of jump in, and they talk about themselves. Sorry, I just did the same thing to someone else then.
Kel has his hand up. Their hand up.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I'm working from home, so hence the chat before. I think one of the things that I've noticed, and this kind of crosses over from my experience at work actually in leadership, is controlling facial expressions. So when someone's talking, trying to remain neutral and, no judgment means making sure that your face doesn't change depending on what they're saying as well. So I find that's really important when you're actively listening to someone as well.
So true, isn't it? Like if you're talking to someone and they're frowning back at you, then you're second guessing what they're thinking, aren't you?
Yeah.
Judged.
Absolutely.
Ebony?
Yeah, I just think in extending on that whole body language thing, I think it's really important, even just to assure someone at the beginning of your conversation, like, you have my undivided attention, I'm concentrating on you, and even just using like little cues like, responding with body language cues when people talk about these things, might be important, just to really understand, to make that person understand that you are processing everything that they're telling you.
I really love that, what you said, Ebony, about undivided attention. You know, that even just saying that to someone is just such a nice thing to say, isn't it? For someone to say to you, like, you have my undivided attention now, is just such a caring gesture. So thank you.
Yeah. Kel?
Sorry, just jumping in again. I thought of another thing is when there is a gap or a pause in the conversation, not trying to fill it, just letting, because obviously people want to fill that space because they find it awkward when it's silence. But if you just stop for 1 second, they may just continue and keep talking.
Yeah, giving them sort of time to gather their thoughts. Yeah. And Richard, you were going to say something?
I was also going to say silence is really good. You know, those pauses are healthy. And it's really like, I think a lot of us have been in conversations where you can have like a 5-minute pause, and it's just, you know, like, you know, it's good for them. But the other thing else, just one of the challenging things that you come across sometimes is like, you just got to make, like, this is, you know, on us as friends, is to make sure that you can listen when you ask the question, because it's like, are you okay? And they go, no. And it's like, and then they try to talk to you. It's like, yeah, you need to make sure that you got, you know, because there's nothing worse than like, someone checking in on you, and then they don't have time to actually listen. It's not very good. So
was faulty, and it like got to the point where you actually blocked my account, and
Yep.
Sarah, you were saying something?
I put something in the chat.
Yeah. Want me to read that out, or everyone good to read?
I mean, basically, it was just like, if you're the person who's listening, I find that a lot of the time you're kind of maybe caught up in the moment on, you know, if someone says they've got a problem with like an assignment, instead of bombarding them as they're trying to talk with like, have you tried doing this or have you tried doing that? You've got to actually stop and listen to everything they've got to say, rather than getting caught up and trying to find solutions for them at the time. Like, you know, you just got to listen.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Sorry, I didn't put the chat there. Hand thing. But yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that even in the past with me, I've had that issue, and I've had to learn from that, where you're like, if you really want to truly listen to someone and their perspective on something, you can't try to control their situation or try to fix their situation for them, because in a way you're kind of making it about yourself then. Sometimes it's good to like really listen to what someone's saying and ask them maybe how they think they can solve their problems too. Like I know in counselling we learned this as well, where you don't always provide people the solutions, but you help them to reach them themselves, and you show acceptance for that.
Yeah, that's a very strength-based model. Yeah, absolutely. Kel and Catherine has their hand up. Kel, Catherine, you can go.
Sorry, I won't take too much time. I just wanted to say what great suggestions everyone has, and I was trying not to say too much because and I was thinking about the sorts of things that I would say if I was asked to say, and I'm just really impressed with all the things that people have come up with. So, you know, staying focused and spending the time, not jumping to that sort of solving the problem mode, and all those great things. So I'm very, very impressed that the students, they're doing better than us staff.
I agree. Well said, Catherine. It's very impressive.
It's funny because when you are sort of drawn to study psychology, you're sort of a natural fixer of problems. And it's something you kind of got to unlearn when you do learn active listening and listening with an open mind, because we might be used to kind of trying to solve problems for people. I know it took me a while to, just to listen really kind of calmly, mindfully, and with that open mind, and to be curious about what will the solutions be. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
a really important one, because I think sometimes that stops people from asking because they're concerned that they won't have an answer. So they don't ask, or they think that will be their burden then to carry. So I think it's really important to come with that perspective and that mind state. Just listening. Yeah.
I think as well, like learning that when you're listening in that conversation, you're actually listening for them. You're not having a conversation between both of you guys just about a topic. Like, this is really to help them reflect and I guess see different pathways that maybe they wouldn't have. Sometimes you just say it out loud and you think, oh wait, I've got it now. Like, more about that rather than, oh, I know what you mean, that's happened to me too. That's happened to me too. I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think another important thing is that when you're listening to someone, you need to make sure that you're okay first before you can actually talk to that person. Because if that person that you're talking to is really not okay, you need to make sure that your positive mindset, or at least your mindset, is better than theirs, in a way that you can actively listen without kind of dragging that along with you as well. Because if you're both not okay, it's very hard for you to be able to listen to them either positively or like give them some advice or anything like that in a positive way. And I think it's really important that you make sure that you're okay before you can talk and actually listen to that person if they're not okay.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Ange. Thank you. Arena.
I don't know if this has been said before earlier, but like something that shows good listening is definitely just rephrasing what they have said back to you, because that way I think it shows encouragement for them to like open up more if they want to you, because like it shows that you care of like what they have to say.
Yeah, it's like a demonstration that you've heard, isn't it?
I think going to the third step now, encouraging action. Sorry, was it my echo?
No, you're okay.
Okay. Emma, you want to start?
Yeah, so I guess something that I learned really recently doing my Cert 4 was just that I guess it's not like a one shoe fits all. Like, everything is very different for everyone else, and you can't predict what's going to happen to that person tomorrow. So just because something's working this week, it might mean that, like, I guess being a supportive friend, being a supportive family member, or just even like, I guess, a colleague, it means that when something happens and it kind of shocks someone on Wednesday, that it's not just a bad Wednesday for them when they're going through a tough time, because now that means it might have like rocked their confidence, or it might have changed their perspective on what kind of support they're receiving. They don't want to receive that support anymore. So we've got to like make sure our friends know that just because you're doing one thing now, it doesn't mean that you're stuck to that. You can see a different therapist, you can go to a different group, you can try something else. And it doesn't mean that you're failing just because you want to try something else. It just means that at this new stage with this new information, that we're ready to move on to something else. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to say that. And also, I guess, about the boundaries one is that a lot of the time we're going to be in the role of professionals, but we're not always someone's professional. Like, we are someone's friend, and you do have to treat them in different ways. But yeah, I don't know if anyone wanted to speak about their experiences, maybe if like lines have been blurred or something like that.
And also, I think I would like to know what people have done before. Like, after you've done the listening, how do you keep that conversation on? Like, what's the next step? How do you do it? Ebony?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's really important. I think this has sort of been touched on before, but I think it's really important to know that you are not there to fix them. You know, and I think a lot of people tend to, especially very, very, very close friends or partners, you have this feeling, you have this onus or responsibility on you to fix them or make sure that that everything is going to be okay. And you have to understand that, you know, I only learned this in like the last year, like personal experience, but yeah, I don't know. It's really hard because you want to be able to help them, and you want to be able to make everything okay for them. But you have to understand that A, they want to be able to do that themselves. And they want to be able to make that change. And B, you need to go to the right people, the people who are specialised and experts in the area to help this person.
Deanne?
Yeah, look, I think this probably kind of overlaps on the last point of being a bad listener, but in terms of sort of getting people to the next steps, I know one of my temptations is to, you know, you want to sort of support them and help them to maybe even shift their mindset rather than solve the problem, maybe shift to the way that they're thinking about the problem. But my, you know, I know one of my weaknesses in that situation is I tend to try then to be a cheerleader and be overly positive about the situation rather than just being comfortable with the fact that somebody is sad or really struggling. And just, I think part of helping someone to move on to that next step is rather than forcing them into that positive mindset, just letting them sit with the discomfort and sit with the sadness for a while and just being there with them during that discomfort and sadness.
Yeah, I think Kazi has also pointed out in the chat that sometimes just sitting there in a comfortable silence to letting the other person know that we're here for you and you don't have to talk, it's okay, not pressuring them into anything. I think that's a very important point. Liv?
Yeah, so going off Ebony's point about wanting to help someone but not necessarily try fixing them, I think a good way to do that is asking them, like, what do you need from me? Instead of just assuming what they want. Like, just ask them, like, how can I help in this time? What do you specifically need that I can do?
Yeah.
Yeah, or even, I guess, sometimes when people live long-term with something, like if you have long-term anxiety, even just reflecting on when you're in this situation last time, do you remember what helped you? Is there any way that, you know, I can help get you to what helped you last time, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that last point you make, Kim, is pretty important. Like, I know sometimes when I'm down, I forget what works, like, because you just get stuck. And like, I've been through it, so many times before, but sometimes I just forget, sometimes take a break, have a walk, just chill for a little bit, reach out to friends. And it's sometimes obviously when you don't right headspace, you just don't connect the dots, and it's just all internalized. And I think that's a very good thing to think about and ask, because it might prompt them.
Yeah. Gemma?
Yeah, I was just going to follow on with what Ebony said before. Also Diane kind of spoke my mind a little bit as well, in terms of sitting there with the person. I know this has already been mentioned, but sitting there with the person in their emotional, their mind state, and not necessarily trying to push towards that positivity just yet. Just letting them process that, and then offering different insights and different ways of seeing a situation or the situation that they're in, so they can kind of look at what they can gain and shift towards a more solution oriented mindset after they've sat with and processed what they've been feeling, if that makes sense.
Sarah, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so obviously, with kind of a lot of things of where something can go wrong, everything's very situational on what that person needs at what specific times. But, so my best friend she's had a lot of anxiety and stuff like that. And a lot of the times, I knew that I couldn't help with some things, but it was stuff where it was, oh, can you come on the bus with me so I can get comfortable on this route and stuff like that. And it's, that's stuff that I'm able to help with. So it was recognizing where my help can start and stop, and you know, all that type of stuff there. But, you know, obviously that's very situational because some things just we're not qualified to do. But yeah.
I had a question, like, at what point, like, how do people deal with like that point where your help stops and where probably more professional help begins? And particularly in those situations where I guess the person's a bit resistant to support for whatever reason. You know, sometimes they're just not ready for it, don't think they need it, or there's just this stigma around getting it. I don't know. What do people think?
I think that's a very fine line, because I've definitely had friends that they've gotten to a point where they've needed support and extra help, but they've been very reluctant to go there. So without trying to push them too much, just encouraging them to get extra support that they need.
I think that sometimes just being open about when you've accessed that help too, making it a kind of a normal experience. I think that, you know, demonstrating a degree of vulnerability in your own life can open the door for other people to actually be vulnerable as well. So, you know, so in your life, you may have sought help from a counsellor and it's been really helpful, or, you know, someone that has. And so sort of breaking down those barriers just with your own experiences as well can be really helpful.
And just on that as well, some people haven't had a lot of experience with mental health services before, and saying, you know, what can I do for you, even just on a personal level with a friend, they might not actually know. They don't know what they need. They don't know what is available, and they don't know not just, I guess, what services are available, professional services, but even just as a personal level. If you just say, hey, what can I do to help you? They might not actually know. So it's giving them the time to maybe work that out, or potentially just offer something that might help them, like you said, based on your own experiences.
Yeah, I think that's a very fine line, but sometimes I have kind of taken charge a little bit. And I said, like, you know, if I know this person really well, like I've had a best friend who, like, you know, started having her first, you know, challenges of mental health. And it was like, you know, by one point I'm like, all right, look, they're at uni. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to walk you up to, you know, the health service. And I just want you to have a quick chat to them because, you know, they kind of know what they're talking about. And that worked out really well. But obviously, it's very situational. Some people will, like, you know, bite back against that. And yeah, so it's very challenging. But that's something that I've done in the past because I've known them well.
Does anyone have any challenges in the online sort of environment, encouraging other people to take action?
I guess one of the challenges that I kind of like to see is that when you're in lockdown, you kind of always like be with your friend, like Richard said, like drag them along, like we're doing this. It's, I guess, how do we feel like when you tell someone, you know, it might be time to do this, it might be time to do that. How can we reach out to someone and make sure that's actually happening? Because like behind a screen, you can be like, yeah, I went to that. Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much. But like, did they? You'll never know. So maybe like, how can you, I guess, connect with someone's other members in their support networks, like their family, their housemates, without it becoming too intrusive and without them feeling like, you know, you guys are up to something, you're talking about them.
Yeah. Sarah?
Yeah, so no, sorry.
That get help as helped, but it's still on. I mean,
Okay. Stacey, you can go now. Try.
Maybe type it in chat. We can't really hear what's going on at all.
Sorry, Stacey. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You can't force people. It's something that they have to sort of realize on their own as well. And you can't take that step for them. And I think, as Richard mentioned before as well, like having that sort of self-awareness and not trying to put that burden or pressure on you either, that I have to fix them, now they're my responsibility, to sort of be, I guess, be chill with yourself too, and give yourself a break as well. Sarah, going to you.
Yeah, it's kind of more just an observation that I've made, because at my job, I'm a receptionist at a psych clinic. So obviously the last few months, we've had a kind of influx of people who are acknowledging that they need someone to reach out to. But then there's the problem of them not being comfortable meeting someone like over Zoom or over the phone. So there's a lot of conflict, from what I've spoken to with a lot of people, about wanting to reach out for help, but this massive barrier of not actually physically being able to go and get the help that they need. So it's kind of just an observation on how everything that's happening right now is kind of affecting a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have another hand raised.
We had Ange had a hand up. Oh, and then there's, yeah. You muted, Ange.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I've had very similar situations where it's very hard to contact someone when there's the whole online situation. And if you know that person really well, sometimes I feel comfortable doing so just because I've had similar situations from other friends, like contact my parents, for example. But I know that when I know someone really well, contacting their parents, because they're actually with them. And sometimes, even if it's not super personal, like even if it's something like, oh, just wanted to check in and see if they're going okay. Can you make sure that they're going okay, or ask them how they're going today? It's something it is a bit more personal, but in terms of not being able to contact them or not wanting to be too intimidating in terms of calling them or FaceTiming them, it can sometimes be just that little bit more helpful.
Yeah, go Liv.
I just want to say that I identify with what Stacey said in the chat, how with telehealth now, it's sometimes you don't want to talk at home because you're living with friends or family or roommates who might be able to hear you, or say if you're discussing one of the people you live with, you don't want them to hear, or yeah, it's a bit more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that point next, but we've got someone with their hand up. Kazi, is it?
Yeah, thank you. So I was going to say that being physically present, it also gives you an opportunity to connect with them more, and especially if they're nervous, you can see the signs, like they're shaking their legs or their hands, and you can monitor the facial expressions more. And especially for people who might need a bit of physical comforting, it's much easier when you're with them physically to just give them a hug or hold their hand maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah, those are things that we're still going to have to do when we're out of here, or, we're going to be starting to see people soon. And, it's good to, be aware of those signs. But yeah, following up from Liv just quickly, it's like, yeah, that's I have that issue, and phone calls from the counsellor and stuff like that. It's like, you just go out for a walk for like an hour. So just because, if you can, like, it's just, it is a bit weird. Like, just because you're usually alone, like you're in like this private room, and now you're in sort of a space of others now and doing this sort of thing. So it's very uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. I think encouraging action. And now, Rach has her hand up.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to ask, especially after Sarah's comment there, the anxiety around Zoom is the biggest obstacle. I'm wondering if there's anyone in here who is currently working as a psychologist, counsellor, social work, anywhere in that area at all, who's found that some people might have found it easier to connect, either via Zoom, by the telephone, by text. Someone who maybe wouldn't have found it comfortable coming into a psychologist's room and actually having a chat face to face. Is there anyone who'd had that experience?
Me. I have. It's much easier.
I found that even though there is some people that do have the anxiety over phone and stuff like that, the opportunity to have telehealth appointments has made it easier for people who have a lot of anxiety when it comes to leaving the house or going to places they haven't been before. So it's kind of that like double-edged sword where it's, you know, really disadvantaging some people, but other people are probably finding it the best thing that could be happening right now, because once all this is over, the option for telehealth and all that kind of stuff, I don't really see going away, because we know that it can now be done in an efficient way.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see a lot of changes about how we do things coming next year, definitely. And I think moving on to our fourth step, just after we have the conversation, we've encouraged them perhaps to take an action, maybe to call a psychologist. Then we have to sort of keep this fourth step they've said is keep checking in. Richard, do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to kick this one off. Yeah, I guess this is an important thing. I feel like it's, you know, so you don't, like, it's not just a one-time conversation and you just send them off and just forget about them. You know, they're all good. It's about making sure that, you know, you've committed, you know, they know that you've committed to like supporting them, and they do have that ongoing support. And I think this is also where the accountability comes in. So, you know, if you make I feel like when you make a plan with someone, you know, you want to check back in. But I guess some of the questions we have now is like, when do you check in? And, you know, how do you check in? Is there any, you know, what sort of tools or methods do you use to check in? What do you think works? So yeah, open it up to everyone else.
I think I sort of have this, I don't know, like maybe a calendar in my mind that, okay, I talked to someone on a Friday and now I know that they're feeling better now, and maybe they'll have a good weekend, maybe start doing some of the things that we talked about. And then I would sort of check in with them after at least 3 days, just send them a message and then see where they're at. And if I feel like they're still sort of in that space and maybe are not feeling better again, or maybe they have some updates that they want to share with me, then I would ask them, are you free for a call at this time? I think that 3-day one, I don't know why I have that in, but that's sort of what I do. Yeah, giving yourself a reminder sort of thing.
Yeah, I definitely think the reminder is a good idea, because I know that when you're worried about someone, you sometimes feel like you need to check in with them all the time. And sometimes that can get really overwhelming for that person. Like, of course, you care about them so much. You want to make sure that you're supporting them and continuously making sure that they're okay. But sometimes checking in on someone over and over can make them not want to open up or not want to talk to you about those things if you're just doing it all the time. So I think keeping a schedule is good. Or not even just keeping a schedule, just making sure check on them every few days or once a week or anything like that is really good.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, keeping it, like doing it periodically, but also committing to maintain that, because mental health can be a struggle that lasts for years. And if you're just checking in once, then, you know, you need to make it a bit more of a habit.
Rachel?
I particularly like the first question on that slide. Sort of when do you know to check in with a friend? And I was just thinking about something I heard about Are You Okay, Dave? Just bring it back to that exactly. Especially with checking in on maybe not good friends, but colleagues and acquaintances. And how do you know when to ask them, are you okay? And something they told us was, if you know the person enough that you've noticed a change in them, in their behavior, then you know them well enough to ask them, are you okay?
That's a good point. And also Sandy has their hand up. Sandy? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Zoe. Just back to the point on when do we check back in with someone to see how they're going. When I decide that I'm going to ask someone about how they're going, I like to make the commitment in that moment. So, for example, you could say, I'd just like to talk about how you're feeling or how you're dealing with this. And then after they've expressed something that seems that they should get help, and you encourage them to seek help or try to hook them up with something, say then, well, how about, we chat again in about a week and see how you're feeling then. Or I'm going to send you a text in a few days and see how you're feeling, so that they have the knowledge that you're not just sending them off and that's it, they're gone, but that you are going to check back in with them, and they sense your commitment to help them, and they might be more likely to be more vulnerable with you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think like following up when you know that they've got something big happening or something big that's just happened, like life events, sometimes that can be a good one to maybe bring up. How are you feeling about this? How do you think that might affect what's happening?
Yeah, I like Josh's suggestion here, like checking in a non-obtrusive and I guess indirect way. He says by showing you there, by sending a meme or a video, promotes further conversation, which is great. But if it doesn't, then that's okay. Yes, it's somewhat sort of removed, but it tells me still there. And I guess I kind of agree with that. It takes off the pressure. And like sometimes, like we talk about, sometimes just knowing someone is there. You don't always have to have the hard conversations. A lot of time is, if every conversation is like, oh, have you done this? Have you, what you do, looking after yourself, this and that. It is pretty intense, and it puts a lot of pressure on. But they're there. And then if you do need them, you go to them, or if you're talking, supporting someone else, that they can just come to you whenever they feel comfortable. I think that's important. Puts the ball in their court a little bit, without the pressure.
I also agree. Is my sound working?
Yes.
Oh, good. I agree with Josh. Like that sending a meme, that friendly message. It's more genuine and more friendly. I like that approach, as opposed to the meeting. That's just my personal schedule. That's just I feel that I could feel like if somebody scheduled it, I feel that I would be able to tell that it was sort of like an automated sort of thing. That's why I like sending a friendly messaging and then feeling out the situation from there. And I also think what's really important is like the degree of the seriousness of the situation. So if somebody's lost somebody, then obviously you need to check in with them much more frequently than say somebody who is maybe just struggling with an assignment or something like that. Like the degree of the distress on that person would also depend. Like you wouldn't go sending a funny meme to somebody who's lost somebody. So there's so many variables on how you would deal with that situation. And yeah, very variable. And it's about, for me, it's about just, and I think a lot of people have pointed out, it's about knowing that person. If you don't know somebody, you're probably got to be a bit careful with the way you tread. But if you know the person, then you know how you can go about that. But yeah, that's my little bit.
Hello. It's lots of great points there. Thank you everyone for sharing that.
Yeah, then I think it's the end of our forum then.